What would you do if you walked into a room and everyone suddenly shot you a creepy smile? I know what I would do. I'd try to wake up, that's what, because there is no way that can be real. Right? Well, in our horror pick for today's video, that's exactly what happens. But unfortunately, there are no dreams here, only nightmares. You have been warned. Let's dive in. The story begins 6 days after the end of the first film. After witnessing Rose kill herself, the smile entity possesses Joel, and he is tormented by it over and over as it messes with his mind. He finds the hideout of some drug dealers and approaches one with a gun, ready to shoot. Joel walks the dealer into the house and then starts stabbing him to death in front of his brother to try to get rid of the curse. The brother shoots at Joel, but Joel gets the upper hand and kills him. Since the curse can only be passed to a living witness, Joel begins to freak out. This whole thing is witnessed by another dealer, Louis Fergoli. Other drug dealers show up at the hideout and chase after Joel until he runs into the street and gets hit by a car. His body is dragged across the ground and the pattern resembles a smile. This is the first scene of the movie, and trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Next up, we're introduced to pop superstar Sky Riley while she's in an interview with Drew Barrymore. Sky's promising career has been affected by years of substance and alcohol abuse, and she's still in recovery from a car accident that she was in which killed her boyfriend. We also learn that Sky is managed by her mother and has had a falling out with her best friend Gemma. Sky is hoping that her upcoming tour will provide her with a much needed comeback. She must not be aware that she is in a horror film. And here, dreams don't come true, only nightmares. After a meeting with Darius, her manager, and Joshua, her assistant, Sky gets a message from Louis, the drug dealer guy from the first scene. She goes to his apartment to get Vicodin from him for her back pains, but when she gets there, Louis grabs her and holds a sword to her throat. Then he freaks out and says he didn't remember sending Sky a message, while trying to explain that he's been having a messed up week. A couple minutes later, Louis comes out of the next room screaming. He begins to choke, and then a creepy smile forms on his face as he grabs a weight plate and smashes his face 3 times until the skin is hanging off of his jaw. Sky vomits and almost calls 911 until she realizes the PR nightmare that would follow. If only she'd been aware that the real nightmare was yet to come. Keep watching to understand how her life became a living hell. Sky continues to prepare for a tour while trying to shake off the horror of what she saw. She attends a meet and greet with fans, but things get very weird. One creepy fan grabs her while taking a photo and tells her that he wants to take her skin. He's removed by security, but then the next fan, a young girl, gives Sky the mother of creepy smiles. If I were Sky, my heart would be pounding like I was doing laps at the Olympics. Sky receives an anonymous message from someone asking if she was at Louis's house, but she ignores it. Later, she hears a noise in her apartment and finds the t-shirt that she had signed for the creepy fan, along with his clothes and skid-marked underwear, all over the floor. It appears that the creepy guy is naked and waiting for Sky at the end of the dark hallway. He chases her and she runs to the door and is greeted by Gemma, whom she called earlier to try to make things right. In contrast, the entity only wants to make things wrong and bad for her. Sky explains what she saw at the drug dealer's apartment, and Gemma agrees to stay the night. While trying to sleep, Sky confides in Gemma about how terrible she feels, and Gemma says it's because she's a bad person. Sky then sees the entity as Gemma smiling at her before making a car honking noise with headlights and everything. This jump scare threw me right out of my seat. Sky and her dancers are rehearsing for the tour when an image of her boyfriend flashes before her eyes and causes her to fall. Later, she goes to her room and finds it trashed, and then she accuses her assistant of doing it, but her mom says the assistant was with her all day. Sky realizes that she might be slowly losing her mind. At a charity event, the teleprompter appears to suddenly stop while she's reading, so she gives an improvised speech which just turns into a rant about her life and the challenges of being a pop star. The teleprompter gets going again, but then it makes Sky read Paul's name out loud, leaving the audience shocked. She sees Paul smiling and walking up to her, and she yells at him to stop before snapping back to reality. When an old woman tries to help her out, she thinks it's Paul, who's supposed to be dead as a doorknob, so she freaks out and pushes the woman off the stage and runs away. Back home, Sky continues to receive messages from the anonymous number. They say they know it's Sky, and they know what she's been going through. They also send Sky a video that Louis made on his phone where he describes seeing the entity. The person invites Sky to meet them in a public space. Sky wears a disguise and visits a bar where she meets Morris, the man who was contacting her. He says that his brother was killed by the Smile entity when it made him use a crowbar to tear off his own jaw. Morris found the drug dealer's body and got Sky's number off his phone. Morris suggests that since he's a nurse, he can stop Sky's heart to kill her and then revive her before the entity can destroy her completely. Sky hates the idea and storms off as fans start to recognize her. She tries to unwind at home by herself, but she sees the entity appear to her as her backup dancers, all grinning at her. They chase Sky around the apartment and attack her, with one of them sticking their arm down Sky's throat before she blacks out. In a flashback, Sky recalls the night of the car accident. High on cocaine, she had grabbed the steering wheel during a fight with her boyfriend, causing the car to veer off the road and crash, killing him immediately. Sky wakes up in a private care center where she's been put on bed rest. She wants to cancel the tour, but her mother insists that they cannot afford to do that. The entity appears in front of Sky as Elizabeth, making it appear that her mother punches the mirror in the room and stabs herself multiple times, even gouging her eye out. Sky runs to the door, only to find the shard in her hand and her gown covered in blood. She sees what looks like her mother's actual dead body and realizes what just happened. Sky escapes the facility and gets in a car with Gemma. Then the real Gemma calls, revealing that the entity has been posing as her. Sky luckily escapes. She meets Morris at an abandoned Pizza Hut where he tries to stop her heart inside a freezer, but the entity appears and attacks her as herself on the night of the accident. Sky fights back but ends up locked in the freezer. We jump ahead and Sky finds herself on stage and on tour. Her fans are screaming her name and her mother is still alive. Sky watches as the entity emerges from a shell of her own body, showing its terrifying face and body before crawling into Sky's mouth. She collapses in front of the fans before suddenly getting up and smiling that hella creepy smile. Her fans can only watch as Sky bashes her head in with a microphone until it goes through her eye. You know what this means, don't you? The entity somehow has just infected every single person at that show, and the world is royally screwed. We hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know your thoughts down below. Okay, you made it this far. Click the join button below and become part of the Replay Media fam, with perks like early access to videos and exclusive content for horror fans. What are you waiting for? Join now.